Russia has launched 90 missiles and 100 drones into an energy grid in Ukraine, putting 1 million people into complete darkness and without electricity. And also, is Putin preparing to attack US and UK military bases? Welcome to Combat Ready HQ. Please, if you could, like, share and subscribe. It really helps the channel. I'm a former serving soldier of 16 years in the British Army. So last night, Putin launched a massive attack into Ukraine, destroying one of their energy grids and putting 1 million people without electricity and into complete darkness. He has also threatened complete destruction and will do whatever is necessary if Zelensky and Ukraine get nuclear weapons to bolster their defense. There has been talks that President Biden is trying to get nuclear weapons to Ukraine before he leaves his presidency and President Trump takes over in January. I don't know what he's thinking here. Ukraine want nuclear weapons to bolster their defense, to deter possibly or in response to possible uses of nuclear weapons by President Putin. The issue is, if you start passing nuclear weapons around, you're just going to make the whole situation worse. Ultimately, nuclear weapons shouldn't be a thing because they just complete destruction, and if everyone fired them off, no one would be here, and there's no point worth living if we even made it. So to give Ukraine nuclear weapons to use in response to attacks by Russia is going to make a situation a whole lot worse. If you give Ukraine weapons as a nuclear deterrent, is it going to work? I don't think so. I think if you give Ukraine nuclear weapons, it's not going to stop Putin. From what we can see, Putin is not looking to end this war until he wins. So moving nuclear weapons in isn't going to deter him from carrying on this war. And he has said, we will annihilate you, complete destruction. Once again, is this a bluff? Do you call his bluff? Like he said against the US and the UK for them authorising Ukraine to use ATACMS and Storm Shadow missiles into Russian territory. Is it worth taking the risk? No. Ultimately, we want to stay completely away from nuclear weapons. So I think moving them in is a bad idea. We do not want to go anywhere near a nuclear war. Ultimately, we want this war to end. But yeah, Ukraine are under massive attacks at the minute because of his ATACMS and Storm Shadow missiles. And obviously Zelensky asking for the use of, well, not the use of, asking for nuclear weapons to be moved into Ukraine so they have that capability. Also, the US and the UK have still been threatened and warned to stop the use of ATACMS and Storm Shadows within Russian territory. We've had a lot of sightings of drones over US and UK bases within the UK over the last couple of days. There is speculation that these are Russian drones. The possibility that Russia is doing reconnaissance on these US and UK air bases, where you've got bombers being held, fighter jets being held, and it is set for nuclear weapons to be held at these sites. Whether these are just civilians out with a commercial drone, just doing a bit of spotting, we don't actually know at the minute. I believe there was a drone spotted over HMS Elizabeth, and they tried to counter that with their counter protection, but it didn't actually work. It was able to defend that off. So it could be a more specialist drone being used by a possible unit. We don't know. Same with the drones over these air bases. They put their countermeasures into place, but they were unable to identify the drones and the users of the drones. You could say it is quite worrying. You know, these missiles were used, the threats were put against the UK and the US, and now these drones are spotted over sort of really important sites within the UK for Russia to possibly do in some form of reconnaissance for a possible attack if these missiles are continued to be used within Russian territory. Once again, he's made the threats. It's now down to the US and the UK to either call his bluff on this or withdraw their authorization of these missiles. We don't know what Biden and Sturmer are going to do at the minute, but we will have to wait and see. But the war has been intense since February 2022, but it looks like it is stepping up. They're both really trying to make advancements on each other's territory. Where it's going to go in a minute, but neither one is going to back down. Ukraine don't want Russia to completely win the war, invade and take over. And we know that Putin is nowhere near at the point of backing down until he has won. What we will have to wait and see is what happens when President Trump comes in. He has vowed to end this war, but we've still got till January for that to happen. And whether it's going to happen, we don't know. All we know is that these attacks are going to continue. We've now got a massive threat on decision-making points within Kiev. There's already been attacks in Kiev, so what these attacks are going to be, we don't know, but 90 missiles and 100 drones isn't a large enough attack to cause a lot of disruption and destruction to Ukraine. So we will just have to wait and see what's going to happen. Terrifying times for Ukraine, and possibly terrifying times for the people of the US and UK on the possible decision of what President Biden and the Prime Minister are going to make. It's just a waiting game now, but that's where we're currently at. We've got massive attacks going on, and we've got drones spotted over the US and the UK for possible reconnaissance. Until we know more about these drones, there's not much we can really do. Like I said, their countermeasures were put in place, but they were unable to identify the drones or the users. So they don't know what drones were used, and they don't know who was using them. So without that information, we can't go any further. That's what they've released anyway. Whether they've got this information and they're not just passing this on because they need to do a thorough investigation, and they may not want to panic, the guys and girls over in the UK, the civilian population, and those within the air bases, we don't know. But as it stands at the minute, they have no more information. Just drones were being used, and there's a possible scare that they were Russian drones preparing for a possible attack on the UK-US. Whether it's going to happen, we don't know. But thank you for watching. Always interested to know what your thoughts are on this, so please comment below with what your thoughts are. Remember to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.